My name is Freddy. Thank you for joining us today here. I'll be taking you through Works3's menu structure today to get you familiar with the tools behind the scenes. Okay, so this will be a series of videos that we compiling to assist you when you work with Works3. Keep your eye on these videos as we're going along and compile them for you. It will be a weekly session that will come out, and if you subscribe, you will be notified when the videos will come out, and also when we will be live. So most of the time we're not always familiar with some of the menu items, or we just point blank scared that we will break something. Well, there's many tools hidden behind there that most of us have never used or even seen, just because we didn't know that they exist. Okay, so let's have a look at them. Let's have a look at the basics and a bit more. So I'll purely just going to go through the menu in this video. I'm not going to go into too much detail, but I'll open a couple of tools and just vaguely speak about them. But each tool literally will have a video of its own in the near future. Okay, so without wasting any more time, let's get cracking at it. So you will obviously open your GXWorks application, and what you will have to do is you're going to have to start a new project. I'm just going to talk about the layout of GXWorks. On top you'll obviously have your menu items. In your toolbar you can customize your toolbar. You can add all the components that you're going to use on a constant basis. I'm going to talk a little bit about some of these toolbars and how they're associated to items in the menu. You can obviously place the toolbars where you want them for your own convenience. On the left hand side we have our navigation bar. Most of our work is going to take place in the navigation bar. There's a couple of things in the navigation bar. I'll show you how they will work to help you sort and find things in your project much easier. You can also remove these docking windows and place them anywhere in on your screen, or you can even put them on a second screen if you have more screens that you work with. Then at the bottom, by default, you can switch these tabs on and off as well. It's just a different tab that you'll find in the menu. I'll show you where we're going to find them. You can switch them on and off as you need them. But clearly, because there's no project in here, they will all show blank. There's no ways to make a connection to a PLC right now, unless we're going to go directly to the PLC and read information from the PLC. Then you're going to require a connection, and that's when GXWorks will give you the opportunity to then create a connection of some sort. Okay, so let me open the projects menu for you first. You can start creating your new project over here, or you can open a new project. Most other items will be grayed out at this point. One item that will be available for you is to open other file formats. So I forgot to mention a little bit about which version of GXWorks I'm making use of. I'm running on version 1.062N. So make sure that you get updated, although even if there's a newer version, get yourself the newer version of GXWorks. Okay. So with the new project created, GXWorks is going to ask you on what platform you would like to develop. So there's quite a substantial amount of PLCs listed. You can even start on your FX PLCs and your older PLCs, obviously the Q series, L series and N series, but it won't be in GXWorks 3. So what GXWorks 3 will do then is GXWorks 3 will then revert back to hi, morning, some of the guys that just joined now. You're most welcome. You can just page back on the video if you've missed something, especially the intro, then you can just review it there again. Okay, so then what happens now is GXWorks 3 will then revert back to GXWorks 2 when you start using the older generation PLCs. Okay, so today we're going to connect or start up a project on a FX5. Once you've selected the PLC that you would like to communicate with or develop a application with, you then can select whatever language you prefer to code in, or you can just start a blank project and then you just build up language items as you go along. I'll talk a little bit about that in more detail on another video on how to mix languages in GXWorks. So you can literally run your ladder, your structured text, your function blocks diagrams, your ladder inside your function block diagrams in the same device, but one have to be careful what you do. I'll talk a little bit more in detail on the capabilities of PLCs and how you affect your programming style in your PLC, or how your programming style will affect the performance of your PLC rather. Okay, just a couple of things to keep note of. Okay, so today I'm going to start a function block diagram project. We will add a little bit of ladder in on another session as well, or if somebody got a specific question about ladder, no problem at all. I'll explain to you what is the difference between function block diagrams and ladder. Especially when people are very familiar with ladder, they get extremely scared when they hear the word function block diagrams. Quite frankly, it's one and exactly the same thing. The only difference here is it's a bit more graphic and you have a lot more functionality, help and assistance. Sorry, I just clicked on that window item there. It just told me that it's going to create a connection in the background, and also important to read these menu items, these message boxes when you start your application. That's due for any software package, quite frankly. Although some of the messages might mean absolutely nothing for you, but it's an important thing to read up and understand what they want you to do. Okay, maybe there's something that is required, and typically items like this, take note of the caution, it might take several minutes to reflect. Okay, so if you're working on a live system now, and maybe you want to, let's say you open a project and you start it up, take note of what you're doing and how that's going to affect you working in your on your PLC, which is maybe in a plant running some critical task. Okay, we'll talk a little bit more in detail on these message boxes and the exact meanings behind them. Okay, so I'm just going to click OK on this one. And there's my project created. Note that all the text in red will be the code that's not been converted yet. So once you've converted your application, then the red items will clear. I'll show you a little bit more on other functionalities as well on reading the color scheme in GXWorks, because there's quite a lot that happens in here dynamically as you carry on developing. Okay, so now we've created our project, and our project menu item has changed completely. So there's quite a lot of other additional things in here. When you can immediately close the project, you can either open another one and save this project, or save this project as at a specific location. So take note, the project has not been saved yet, so it will do a save as automatically for you. Okay, then you're gonna get this dialog box that's gonna give you a couple of options. So as you save your project, you're going to give your project a file name, and obviously give your project a title as well. Save your project as either a GX3 file, .gx3 file, and the other option is only that. Sorry, the project will be a GX3 file. The thing that I want to talk to you about is when you save your project, you can save your project in a single file format or in a workspace format. Okay, so when you save your project in a workspace format, GXWorks3 will separate each item that you've created in your project as a different file, which can be useful for editing and modification and multitasking on the long run later. Some people do find it very beneficial because they can literally just change a couple of small things in those files and make a huge project very quickly. We'll talk about that in more advanced things, but for now, keep it as a single file project. Makes it easy to port your project to other people as well. So I'm just going to give my project a name. I need to find a hole on my machine now. Let's see. Just going to create a folder called demo, and this demo. Let's call it even better. Okay. Just create myself a folder here called menu demo. And there's your project saved and ready to be developed. So there we got a message. It'll tell us the file size of the project has been saved as a standard one. If you select compression, blah 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 blah. So take note, read these messages, and there's also very important bits of information about earlier versions of GXWorks that they do note here when you do certain things. Okay, so be aware of these message boxes. Do read them. They're gonna save you a lot of headaches on the long run. Okay, and that counts for every application. Read the message boxes. So then we'll just get an overview of what our project looks like, what the version of Works is that we're working in, and I can start giving my application a version number, and obviously there's my title that I just typed in for my project. And I just call this one version 1, or give it a nicer name, just 1.0. Maybe we're gonna extend it a little bit in the near future. And you can either compress your file structure, or you just keep it standard. So just keep it standard for the beginning until you get a little bit more advanced in your development, and then we carry on with that. Okay, so nice one here. When you start the project, write down what it means, what you're going to do with this thing, or or just a message that you would like to leave for your colleagues, or maybe your customer. You just write some software for your customer. Just leave a message here under comments, and what's the purpose of the software, blah blah blah. You can write any sort of story in there until you got the text box filled up. I need to confirm to you how much text you can put in here. I'm not sure. I haven't checked that one for myself yet. But there's a substantial amount of text that you can put into the comments block as well. So this is to demonstrate Works3 menu. So that's the purpose of my application now. Obviously we're going to you can delete the application immediately on the spot. Next tool is to verify a project. Maybe you got a couple of versions, or you got maybe different people working on the project, and somebody sent you a file and you've made changes, so maybe you would like to just verify the changes that you've made is the same as what the other individual has done on his side. So project verification is quite an extensive exercise. I will make a dedicated video for you. So we're going to open 2 different projects. I'll make an example of the differences between 2 different projects. Then I'm going to go through. It's very easy to understand and to read the differences between 2 projects. Like I said, I will make a video on the project verification in a bit more detail, because there's quite a lot of nice tools inside the project verifying tool, which you can benefit a lot on when you develop your project. Okay, so the next item we're going to look at will be project registration. I'm not even going to go into this right now. That will be a dedicated video for itself. Do you want to save your project being edited and register it as a different revision? So this is where we're going to do complete revision management and make sure that we keep track of what we're doing in our project when multiple people work with the project. Okay, so I'm going to do this on another video in more detail for us. And then obviously you have your revision list as well. Change module type operation mode or operation mode. So if I click on this, I can change my PLC to something different now on the fly. I can actually swap my PLC out for a IQR. Since we are on the IQ platform now, the IQF and FX5 and R CPUs are running on the IQR on the IQ platform. Therefore, I'll be able to swap between CPUs. When and if you do that, you're going to see differences. So, what you also have now is we can swap between the new generation FX5, which will be the FX5UJ CPU in the same project basically. Okay, so when you do that, then and you have more modules in, we can also swap modules on the fly. I think that's to do with the IQR. Once we're on the IQR platform, because the IQR is a modular PLC, and your FX5 is a let me just have a look here. Somebody is giving me a message here. Okay, so the IQR is modular, and the FX will be a compact PLC. Okay, so we'll explain a little bit more about the differences between the PLCs later, but we were just mainly going to focus on the menu structure on the PLC, on the Works3. Okay, so data operations. I am going to handle this in a different video. It becomes a bit more intense when we go into each one of these items. I would like to get as quickly as possible through the end of this, so that we all can have a clear overview of what the menu structure look like. Okay, so don't worry, each one of these things are noted, they are in the list, and I'm going to make a video for each one that I'm mentioning. Okay, so intelligent function modules. Once we've added a module in, I'll show you where those functionalities are. Then you'll be able to see the parameter list of those modules. Okay. I did talk about open other file formats. Again, we're going to have a video available for each one of these file formats. You can literally go and take your IEC application and bring it directly into your Works3 environment. Obviously, you're going to have a little bit of work to do. There might be a couple of things that's not compatible, but most of your application will be ported into Works3 then. A lot less labor to do typing and rewriting your program again. Then obviously you can bring your GXWorks2 projects directly into Works3, or you would just like to open a user library that somebody maybe made or developed. PX Developer, I don't know if you guys are familiar with PX Developer. That is the application that we use to write programs for our VFDs, our F&A series VFDs. They do have PLCs built into the VFD, so you can do actually very clever stuff with your VFD. And yeah, you can bring your PX developer code also back into Works3. Maybe you want to do a bit more advanced things, and you may be limited in your functionality in your GXWorks, in your PX code. And then you do your communication either through IEC, sorry, I've lost my terminology there. What are we looking for? CC-Link. So then you maybe would like to have your program run in a PLC and then communicate to your VFD via CC-Link or Modbus or inverter comms, whichever way you would prefer, instead of having your program in the PLC, in the VFD then. Okay, so then we also have a tool to import your code from GX Developer. GX Developer is extremely old, same as IEC. And then we have another one to open an XML file. I'll explain to you now what we're going to do with that. So if you have maybe a structure that you created and you find it very tedious to do repetitive work, you can then export your project to an XML file, do your modification and manipulation, and then bring it back into GXWorks3 via XML. Okay, so there's some quite nifty things. I will make a very nice detailed video about dealing with XML in your project as well. It makes it handy, especially when you do a bulk amount of work very quickly. Then we have our library operation. I just want to see something quickly. Give me a second. I need to keep my eyes on all the things in the background. Okay, so where are we? Okay, so that's good. So where did I stop? Library operation. So you can export your libraries. Again, these things will all, each and every single one that I have where there's a tool to be used, I'm going to break it up into small little video sections or live sessions that we can see how these tools work and what we can do and what we cannot do with them, what's their limitations as well. Okay, and what your benefits, clearly. The next one is our security item. So there will be a very detailed and accurate description behind how to handle security in your FX5 or your IQR PLC. Big warning from day one. If you lose your password or you lose your file key, I cannot help you. Mitsubishi cannot help you, because these things are highly encrypted and there's no ways that it will be recovered. It's impossible. So you have to make backups of your files. You have to keep your password safe and secure, and don't lose it. Best recommendation I can give you. Okay. But at the same time, for intellectual property, you writing code, it's your project, and you would like to keep your intellectual ideas and stuff safe and secure. Yes, you can do it 100%. Only thing that I can say to you is don't lose your password and don't lose your files. Okay, so once you start with the security, I'll explain this into extreme detail, because I'm just going to make a half a job right now if I go into these menu items. You get a tool where you can go and set up everything, and the tool is quite intense as well. You can set up security on the CPU layer and in your project layer. So you can really lock yourself out so badly if you don't know and you're not taking care of what needs to take place on in the security tools. Okay, so expect a fantastic nice video that's going to come out of that one. Okay. Obviously you can print your project out as well. Set up a printer, same standard functionality like in any other application. And then obviously your recent projects that you started GXWorks 2 instance of GXWorks 3. So I'll just be running in GXWorks 2 if I click on this button now. Or you can exit the application. That's the first menu item. Next we're going to go and look at edit. Okay, there's not a lot to edit at the moment because we don't have much in our program written. You have your undo and redo. You can also set that up as how many times you would like to undo and redo in the buffer. You can cut, copy and paste and delete things on the fly as you carry on developing. With your shortcuts on the side. So take note of your shortcut keys. Get used to them, use them exactly the same as any standard application. but then we're going to get into a bit more interesting shortcuts. I recommend go and just look at the shortcuts and see what we can do with them, because you can just save yourself a substantial amount of time by start working with shortcut keys. But as you're getting familiar with the GXWorks3, okay. In our layout, quite powerful. So once we've created something, or we need to make space for something, we can insert either rows or columns in our worksheet. Okay, so these things are called worksheets in GXWorks3. Okay, when we're developing in function block diagrams, we talk about our programming space as a worksheet. Okay, so in your worksheet you can access these menu items directly by just right clicking on your worksheet, and you'll be able to access the menu items. But over here there's a lot more menu items in here, because you can do a lot of different things at the same time at this point, or maybe you just quickly want to insert a row. Like I said, else just make use of your shortcut keys. Insert a row is Shift plus Insert, and delete a row is Shift plus Delete, or insert multiple rows is Shift Alt Insert. Okay, so then you can decide, do you want to add 5 rows or 10 rows or 20 rows. You can do that on the fly. I'll demonstrate that a little bit further. That's just now when I add something in the, on our worksheet. Batch correction of layout in function block diagram network blocks. Okay, so you can sort things very quickly. So if you created a whole lot of maybe variables, like I'm just adding an M0 as a variable in there. So one way to add a variable, or you can just go and select add a variable. So wherever you select it last, that's where any event that you click on is going to take place. Okay, remember that. For instance, if you click on the end of a variable, you click somewhere. Okay, so I'm digressing a bit from the menu here. So if you've got a couple of things lying around on the desk here, throw a couple of things in here. There's not a specific program that I'm writing. I just want to show you how the menu structure look like now. I've clicked right, and I went to my edit menu item. So now I can insert a row, or I can insert multiple rows. Okay. Take note that I can't insert a column at this moment, because we don't have a network. Okay. So once I created a network, then my column insert will be available. Okay, so let me create a little network, then I'll show you how what will be the impact on programming. So I'm just going to add an AND block in. Take note what I've done there. I didn't go and select something from my elements environment. So there's my elements. I didn't go and search for something here. I just type. Okay. And if you're getting more familiar with all the different function blocks and functions, you merely just type it out, or you just click on something, drag and drop it in. Okay. So make it easy on yourself. So let's say I want to maybe reset a bit of some sort. Let's say M1, and there I want M2 in, for instance. Okay, so now I have a network block here. So I can quite frankly go and copy this network block. Okay, either from there or from my menu item. I can just go and say Control C, copy, and paste it somewhere. Yes, that's exactly the same thing. But let's see what happens now with layout. Oh, I still can't add any columns. Okay, let me move this one over here, and let's see what happens now. Ah, still can't insert columns. I think I need to add a different network block. Does anybody got an idea there? Because I haven't personally played with inserting columns. Yes, the video will be available online as well, so you can continue viewing the videos in your own leisure. You just come back to the same link and you'll be able to see the video Ivan. Okay, so so let's see who's gonna give me a hint on how I'm going to insert a additional column. Okay, let's see who comes up with the first answer on that one. In the meantime, I want to highlight something for you in the development environment. Take note that you see these number 1s and 2s and 3s and stuff everywhere in your program now. The purpose for those items is the way that you would see your PLC scan through your program. This is the exact steps that's going to take place as the CPU scan your program. Okay, so that will be the first thing that's going to happen, and that's going to be the last thing. So when you move things around in your programming environment, these steps also change. Okay, so for instance, if I'm going to rename this item, to, let's say, 3, and that one maybe 4, just so that I can have a different program here altogether and I don't clash with the one that I just copied, just to be funny. So the numbers still stay the same, but now if I'm going to move these items around and just move them into different places, take note what's going to happen. So now this program will run first before this one. Okay, so be very careful on what you're doing in your function block diagram. So it's extremely manipulative. You can fix things very quickly. You want something to happen before something else. It's literally just picking it up and dragging and dropping it. So again, coming back to our menu items, when you look at view, these are probably the most important menu items that you're going to deal with to understand what happens with your program. So I would like to see my device label comments. Okay, I'll show you, because we don't have any comments coming up here now. I'll show you where they are missing, because there are no comments in there. And then also I would like to see switch function and function arguments. Okay, and then I also would like to see my device display. So when we're having a variable and I attach that variable to a device, then I will be able to see that. I'll demonstrate that for us just now. The next thing is function block network block number display. Okay, very important one to keep on. Take note, now this block got a number 1 and a 2. Okay, and then the last one, display page breaks. I just like to keep them on. You can keep your control key down. When you push your control key, Just give me a second. Works just want to refresh now for some reason. There we go. There's my page break. So when I develop now my program, I can keep my program very nice and neat, simple and easy from the word go. So I don't have to, I can spread over, and I can put very neat structures in my development, or I can just keep everything nice and neat and together. Okay, so what I want to show you now with the function block diagram network block number. Be extremely careful when you work with this. Okay, because again, this is where you can make things happen very easy or difficult for yourself. So remember, that one is now number 1 and this one is number 2. So when I take this block and I move it across next to this one, that is 1 and this is 2. Take note what's going to happen now. I select my code and I just move it one line up. Did you see what happened? We change sequence. Okay, take here, have a look here. So this part of the program is going to run before that part, although you think because this is that side it's going to happen first. No, it's not. This side will happen first now, until I make it either equal or below. Okay, just a little hint there. So when you write a program and you would like to have certain things happen first before other things in your code, yeah, that's the easy way to manipulate and move your program back and forth and up and down to see what the results will be in your PLC then. Okay. So what do we have here? We stopped with adding elements. Okay, this is our layout and there's our elements. So once we have our worksheet available, we can start adding elements, which is exactly the same as what you see in the toolbar behind there. Okay, so the benefit that you have now to learn very quickly is the shortcut keys. Okay, get familiar with the shortcut keys. You're going to save yourselves a lot of time developing your program. So for instance, if you want to add a close contact or an open contact, it's purely just F5 or F6. Okay, so if I click F5 or F6, as simple as that. Okay, so it's very rapid that you can develop things, or you can just go and click your open or you click your close contact there. Okay. And that applies for all these items in the menu here. I'm going to highlight a couple of items in here that is quite handy and dandy. We have connectors, we have jumps, we have jump labels, we have a return, and we have comments. Okay, so when you develop, misuse the comment part, but just don't overuse it, because remember, all the comments take space in your PLC program. So if you have an intense development that you're going to do and it's going to consume a lot of space in your CPU, yeah, it's going to cost in commenting, but don't neglect commenting. Find yourself a nice and simple structure on how you would like to comment things. It's extremely handy once you start noting things. I'll show you now on the device comments as well. Quite important to name your devices, what you're going to use them for in your development as you move along. Okay, so then in our environment we have now all these special tools at the back here. So for instance, if I want to change a contact from normally open to a normally closed, It's not a case of it's not a case that I have to delete it and then add a normally open, for instance, where I made a mistake. No, you just click on the item and you just swap its function. It's either pulse up, pulse down, or open, or you can invert it or invert it back. Did you see what I did there? Okay, so I merely just clicked on the invert button. Let me see if I can zoom in nicely with. Here we go. So you get your context tooltips as you hold your mouse over the items as well. Very descriptive and very easy to understand the programming environment. So what I did there is I just inverted, and then I changed the contact from normally open to a normally closed, or I can just add a pulse, change the pulse from a rising edge to a falling edge, or you can remove the pulse. Okay, the little button on the side here, I'll show you in the menu item. It's exactly the same there. This is merely just for my links to get connected automatically. I have my device list and my device labels. I'll show you now. It's exactly the same items as what you would see under view. So as you're selecting these checkboxes, these items will become highlighted or not. Okay, so that you can see, once I added some description into the devices, you will see them appear. Okay, I'll just make a short example on using a variable attached to a device in a global variable. Okay, so in a global label. So I'll create a global label first, and then I'll attach a device to that, so you can just see how it works. Okay, so that's our elements. Connectors, jumps, jump labels, returns. I'm going to deal with that in a different video, because we can do some very creative stuff developing our code. Take note that I'm mixing ladder and function block diagram. Not a problem at all. Okay. We'll speak about the pros and cons on another session when we start doing these things. But in the meantime, in the beginning, just get going, get familiar with the tools, get familiar with the menu, understand what you're doing. And so, by the way, every single thing that I'm talking about and what you're dealing with in GXWorks is noted and described very clear in the e-manual viewer. I'll quickly show you the e-manual viewer, how it works and how to use it. Very easy operation. So there's loads and loads and loads of information inside the e-manual viewer. Okay, when I get my comment list up there, because I closed everything by accident. Okay, so let's see what we can do here. We can change our function blocks or our functions on the fly, and we can also do a quick convert by just doing F4. So I'll get back to the convert later. Let's just do this first. Let's say I want to change a name. Then I just type in a move. Okay, but I didn't want to move. I wanted something else. So I just click on my F2 button again. Oops, I think that's not going to work. This is the same function here. The change name B or change function block or function data. Okay, so instead of a move, I wanted a move. So without changing my programming environment, I merely just changed the function block. But now be careful when you do that. A couple of links is going to get lost. Okay, so for this just a functionality that I wanted to show you there. I just dragged it and it snapped automatically. So you're going to lose some of these links if you change your function. So think about it when you do a change. Be careful when you swap things around. Okay, what else do I got here for you? Take note that one is grayed out now, so when I click on a function or a function block, I can then do a change out. Okay, so the menu is very dynamic. Be aware when you work with it. Okay, so the same goes for your function block as well when you created one or a function that you've created. Once you've changed the function, we'll do that in another video when we start getting deeper into the programming environment. And you just have to update your function block. Okay, edit mode. I've handled this already. Use assigned devices for label input. Okay, it's a item that I've switched on now somewhere. I think it's this one here. Use assigned devices for label inputs. So when I create a label, let's say test value, and now I can assign devices directly once I've created a global variable, either a word, or if I got a structure, again we're going to deal with this in more detail, or we can go and look at our function block variables. But I'm just going to use a simple type here. Let's call it a bit, and I can now attach this bit to a specific variable. Test bit is the description for this variable. So that's just the option to open the label editor and set the label details after registering the label information. Okay, so once the label is created, the global labels will open now, and that will allow me to do a bit more editing. Okay, so there's my global labels where the variable was created. I have an option on top here now to show more details. So make sure that you keep it on, otherwise you're not going to see the other information that you're going to need. So quite a couple of options that you can select from. Again, we'll deal with the labels in a more specific video as well. It's quite intense. You can do some very interesting things with your labels. Okay, over here we can assign a device to that label. Okay, so we merely just give it a M variable or a Y or a X, whatever you prefer. So I'm just going to call this M10. So that variable is now associated to M10. So the variable and M10 is the same thing. Yeah. So if you switch M10 or if you switch the variable, the same thing is going to happen. We talk to this exactly the same thing, but because we're using variables, we can do a lot more in our function now in our program. There we go. Now we can see based on what I've selected in the menu. Okay, so I can now see my function block diagram network block number, which are these numbers. Okay, Those are my network numbers. I can see my device display. Let's get back there. I can see my device display. Let me just scroll down and we can see the menu as well. Let's leave it aside. And the view. Oh, that was a bit too far. No, let's do it like that. Okay. So there's my network numbers. My device display. Oh, let me zoom in again once more. And let me just click on something there. I'm going to show you something. 1 second. That's better. Okay. So there's our network numbers that I talked about. Our device display, there we go, that's our device. Remember we've seen another item down here as well, comment displays. That will be my device comment, okay, or in this case it's my variables comment, because I still haven't commented my device yet. So once I put a comment on my device, I will be able to see that as well. So let me show you. Where do we get that? In my devices. There's my device comments. Okay, so there's my device comments, and then each program device comments, or you can do globally your device comments. Okay. So by just double clicking on common device comments, I can go and list my M0s. I can also click on the button over here to highlight more detail that I would like to see, a bit more filtering that I can do. I can also, I'll show you now, I can filter between all my devices, okay, or used devices. So if you've used a device in your program somewhere, you will be able to see them here, and unused devices will then be listed over here. Else you just show all. And on this side, display registered comments only, or display only the mismatched comments. Okay, so we didn't need to go and filter through your program to see what's going on in your environment. At the moment I would like to see all my used devices. Oh, there's no used devices because I haven't compiled anything. Oh, there we go. This is even before I compiled. I forgot about that. So just because I've typed in those devices in the program that we got here. So there's the program. So just because I used these devices on my worksheet, and that happened in this version. Okay, so remember this version of GXWorks. So I can now go and give my devices names. So I can give my device a name called test menu device, for instance. Oh, my spelling sucks. I'm completely dyslexic, so forgive me. Okay, now I've commented that item. What did we call it? Test menu device. I think I might need to save now. Let me just see, because I should be able to see a comment over here now. Let me just see, maybe I switched it off. No, they're all on. So all the menu items is on. multiple comments, read comments. This is just configuring different languages on comments. Sometimes you'll open programs, they're written in Chinese and Japanese, but maybe it is just a case of they've switched off the English and they've left on the Japanese. Okay, because you can write your comments in different languages. So okay, it's just a bit of a hint there on handling comments in Works3. Okay, so now we're reading the comments from the function block. Okay, why can't I see my comment now? What am I missing here? Control extension. For some reason I can't see my comment, but I'll come back on that just now for us. Okay, this is obviously just something that I didn't enable at this moment in time. That is Control 5, so I should be able to see that. Okay, I'll get back to that. If somebody can throw me a hint there, thank you. I'm not going to bother about that right now. Let's move on with the rest. There's quite a substantial amount of information in here. Oh, it looks like I've gone over my time already. Okay, so I'm just going to carry on until I just finish the basic layout of the menu items, because it's very easy to digress once you start digging into these items. So like I said, I'm going to make a specific video for each item individually. So easy to lose the track. What we ended up with is editing the edit mode. We've seen that IO assignment, IO arguments. Okay, so we can either increment or decrement arguments. Where do these things apply? They apply to function blocks over here. There they are. So the moment you click on a function block, that does allow you to increase or decrease your IO's arguments. Then they will become active. Then easy edit. Okay, so those are all the easy edit items. Okay, I think we've talked about most of them already. So there's, for instance, you can literally just flip between your set and reset. So instead of retyping it, you can just go and flip between your set and your reset. Okay. Alt plus switch pulse. I think I need to connect this. Still not. Okay, I have to check that up. Then order comments. You can either take your comments, we got more than one comment. You can change the order of the comments, bring one forward. Okay, I want to send this one to the back. Okay, so they just one in front of the other one. Okay, basically something like that. If you've got many comment blocks that you have on your sheet, bring to the front, or just bring it one layer back so there's multiple layers in your development environment. In process control extensions, I'm going to expand a bit more on this one on another video. So your find and replace tool, extremely powerful. I am going to have to make a specific video around find and replace and searching for things in GXWorks, but your basics is literally just Control F and you find your dialog box over here. Okay, so that's where we start. Our entry point will be either the complete project or the window I'm looking at, and you can decide what you would like to search for, and then we obviously have to find in certain places. So if you've got an extremely busy project and you only want to search for something in a very specific place, you can break your search environment down to find something just in one place only, something specifically you're looking for. Okay, so the search tool is quite extensive. Like I say, if you want to get information about this very quickly, it's all noted in the manual. Okay. I think that covers that area over there. Okay, so this whole dialog box you just got to do with this the find and replace tool. Okay, so you can undock your tools and place them where you like to work with them easy. I prefer mine on the side and long ways along the wall, so that I can have some real estate to work with. That's how I like to develop my environment, in my environment. Okay, convert is the next one. Convert B will convert just the form I'm working on. Okay, it won't go and convert the rest of the program. And F4 is your shortcut for that. And then rebuild everything. At this time, when you do a rebuild, GXWorks will go and do a clean up and then rebuild every single thing that you have developed. Okay, and then we obviously have our online program change. That's when we get connected to a PLC, something like where am I now? I've lost something. It's GXWorks3. Hello. Oh, yes. Okay, sorry, my mistake. I'm just quickly looking for a window that decided to disappear. Oh, because. Okay, so there we go again. Sorry for that moment. My PC just decided that it wanted a refresh for some reason. Okay. So what I wanted to show you is when we're converting the application, GXWorks is going to rebuild everything from scratch, and then you have the opportunity to load it to your PLC. Okay, so then it would be a typical scene like this, where I have my PLC on the back end there, and my screen. Okay. Stop it for a moment. Okay. Just to come back to the program again. that's a bit better. Okay, so then obviously you'll be able to download the program to your PLC. GXWorks will stop you from compiling something that's not connected or linked. Okay. I'm just going to remove these disconnected links out just to show you how it works from the menu structure. Okay, so now I've got this variable just sitting there open, and I'm going to ask GXWorks to rebuild the project for me, and it says thank you very much. Build the project. Okay, and it looks like we don't have any errors or any warnings. So what I normally like to do is I'd like to use my output window to see what the result is. So there's my information on how my compilation has happened as well. What's the results, how much space do I got left available in the PLC, and how many steps do I got in my program. So I've got now 29 steps used out of 64,000 steps, okay, in the FX5. And from labels, I didn't even touch the memory. Okay. So there's quite a substantial amount of space to work with in the FX5. You can really develop some very interesting concepts. Okay, so the next one that we want to look at is check syntax. Okay. Check the syntax in the current program or in everything that I got in this project. Okay. So the current power would be this one branch here. So what I do is I can go and add new data, and just for example's sake I'm going to add a bit of ladder in here. So I just created a new program. Like I said, I'm going to handle this in a more detailed video later. So there's my ladder program, and there's my function block diagram. So I can literally mix languages between the two. So if I now would like to go and check the syntax in the current POW, it will be the one that I've selected. Okay, so I'm going to check my syntax in the ladder only. It's not going to check the syntax in the function block diagram. Else if I say check everything, okay, it's quite self-explained. Then program file settings, we can go and have a look at that. Okay, so now since we got two different programs in our programming environment, we can give them priority. So again, what would you like to make happen first? So would you like your ladder to run before your function block diagram, or vice versa? And you merely just move your application up and down. Okay. And that's in my main program. You can main structure. So if you're going to create more scan structures, you can add them into the list here. Okay. So if I go to scan, I can add new data again, and then a whole new structure. Let's just add another ladder in, for instance. Okay, and let's have a look and see what happened now. Program file settings. Okay, so that's still under main, unless I create a new folder. No, not a new folder. New
So I can add, I know that I can add a new subtree in my main. I don't think I can do that on the FX5. I think on the IQR, yes, you can do that, creating more branches down in your program. But nevertheless, so that's what you're going to do is give your programs names as well. I'm going again into programming, yeah. Let's say main sheet or program, whatever you want to call your structure. And you will understand exactly what you look at if you give things proper names. Okay. So I would like that part of my program to run before that one, and I want to run this one before the next one, and so on and so forth. Okay. So those are the rules that my program will work under. Next one that we have here is worksheet execution order settings. Okay. So this is my program body. I only have one program body in here for my function block diagrams. So for each function block diagram or worksheet that I add in, so if I add a new worksheet in my project, take note that I only use one set of labels for one program. Okay. But I can have multiple sheets in my project so that I can very easily develop my project structurally and also keep and group things together. Okay, so I just added another sheet there. You can also rename your sheets to something like main body. Oops. And under convert we have our worksheet execution order status. Okay, there we go. So we can decide what worksheet will execute before the next one. Okay, quite self-explained and intuitive. Okay, and then convert settings. A good idea to start with your settings, but I would recommend strongly that you go and read up in the e-manual viewer on what the meaning of each one of these settings are. Okay. What you will also have in GXWorks, if when you click on any one of the settings, there will be a very short description for each specific setting. I'll show you now. For instance, let's look at execute program, check after build or online program change. So what does that mean? When I click on it, I get a nice, very short, detailed description on what that setting is for. If you still don't understand what that is for, you then take some of the terminology that you see in the search, and you can expand quite extensively on that. Okay, and you can learn a bit more out of that. Okay, so that goes for every single setting in GXWorks. What else do we have? Yeah. Okay. Under view, I think we've handled most of the stuff under view anyways. Font color, I'm not going to go through that. Those are the basic things. Zoom in and out, like I told you before, or when I didn't show you. You can keep your control key. Oh yeah, this is where the wheels came off earlier. You can keep your control key down and just roll your wheel, and you can zoom in and out. So remember, GXWorks will zoom towards the place where you've selected. Okay, so if, for instance, if you scrolled all the way down to some place in your program, let me show you an example, for instance. So you scrolled all the way down, but you've selected on top there. In the moment you try to zoom in or out, it's going to scroll to the place where the cursor is located. Okay, so don't annoy yourself with that. Just go and click on the place where you would like to zoom in or out. Okay, remember that one. I think this covers switch between worksheets. I can literally just use that shortcut to flip between worksheets. control page up and control page down. Okay, so then again, an easy and quick way to just page between your program. Online, again, quite extensive information here. At this point we're going to dig into the PLC and we're going to have to configure our connection. I'm just quickly going to show you the default way of dealing with this. I have my PLC on the desk and I would like to connect to my PLC. If I do that, I can go online. I double click on my connection. You can also name your connections. You can have multiple connections. Then GXWorks will ask me first of all how I would like to connect, either through a switch or a router, or make a direct connection. In this case I'm going to make a direct connection, and you select then what network card you have connected to the PLC. What's the connection between the PLC and your PC? Okay, that's my IP address on my computer, and I can do a connection, and there's my test done successfully to the PLC. And I'm now set to program the PLC directly. Okay, so when I compile this now, I think I've compiled this already, and it was quite happy with the results as well. And if you take note on the lights on the PLC, I'm going to write this. So this is basically for the guys that has never done this before. I mean, it's going to bore the guys that seen this. On the online mode, I can write to my PLC, click this button, or I can just click the shortcut directly here. Okay. Online, write to PLC. Take note the PLC is going to switch off when I ask it to write. So first of all, there is a program in the PLC. I'm just going to clear my PLC to make sure that I don't have any clashes. So select everything that I want to clear. Now the PLC is blank. PLC switched off. I can just see the power on, but it's not in run mode, although my selection switch is in run. Okay, the CPU is now stopped. Would you like to start it again? Yes, but it's now blank. So you can see now the PLC is back in run mode. Going back to write my program to the PLC, the one that I just compiled now. Just click on the button on top, write. So you have write, read, verify and delete. All your tools very handy dandy together here. Select everything that you would like to write to the PLC. Maybe you just done a parameter change, and you're just going to write the parameters to the PLC, for instance. Okay, but in this case I'm going to write everything to the PLC that I just compiled. And on the bottom I've got a button that I can look at more statistics in the PLC of what's my memory level like. So currently I've got a free and open PLC. Yes, I would like to stop it again. Say yes, it's going to stop the CPU, write the program into the CPU. And then when I'm done, it's going to close the window and ask me if it would like to restart the CPU again. Okay. So yes, task is done. Sorry, I didn't explain that very well. So the message was that GXWorks asked me to reset the PLC. So I'm going to come here to the reset button, and I'm going to hold the button down. Take note that the error light will flash for a couple of seconds. Leave the button, it will just come back to the stop status, and then you can just lift up the, sorry, you can't see there what I'm doing. You can just lift up the button to let the PLC be in the run state. And there's the program running. So we can then close our programming tool, our online data operation. And since we do have a connection to the PLC, we can do some diagnostics, and we can go and do a module diagnostics. Okay. And the module diagnostics, it will give me a lot of information. Very important information is what CPU did I connect to. Okay. That is my product number, your serial number of your CPU, and that will be my version of my firmware. This will be my bootloader version, and that will be my hardware version. So this is quite a new PLC. Bootloader is version B, hardware is version B, and I've upgraded to version 1.201. Very important to read up on your firmware version before you just upload or a new firmware. If it's not needed for you, then don't bother. But sometimes they do some dramatic changes on the firmware, and it's a good idea to get yourself up to date. First thing that you'll find here is if there's any error on the CPU, it will be listed here with a detailed description of what that error possibly was. Okay. And there's a couple of more tools that's hidden inside here behind the buttons. I'm gonna go through that onto a different video again to handle all these little nifty tools that we have in the program. So as you've seen already, I mean, we've gone quite a bit over time, and there's still a lot of information to handle and to understand what we can do and what we cannot do with a PLC. Okay, so again, this tool again have to be explained into more detail to make benefit of it. Okay. That is your module diagnostics. Very simple. First thing you're going to see is your error, what the error is all about. Okay? And that we'll find under diagnostics. Okay. Not system monitor. Oops. Diagnostics. That will be. There we go. Module diagnostics. Okay. CPU diagnostics. That's what we want to know. If you want to go and see if there's any error or something. So there's a lot of other tools in here. We're going to go through them one by one because they are quite extensive, especially around the CC-Link, DSN and CC-Link I field diagnostics. And then we have our CC-Link I field basic diagnostics as well. And then our normal CC-Link diagnostics, which is the serial part of CC-Link. And then simple CPU communication diagnostics as well. Okay. On top we have our sensor, device monitor, and our system monitor. We'll again go into more detail around them. Feel free, go and click on those buttons. Go and see. You can't destroy things. If you get stuck with something that you might have done, you're more than welcome to contact us at our support department, and we will explain to you where you've probably gone wrong, or you contact me directly, and I can maybe give you some guide on what you can do. Right, so debugging, you can literally go and start up a simulator. Again, I'm going to deal the simulator into a different video. I'm not going to go into that right now. It's quite extensive and very intuitive and very easy to go and simulate the things and scenarios that you have in the field. Just remember that it's not a PLC, it's a simulated environment. So all your modules that is in the CPU, like for instance your IOs, not very easy to simulate, but there are ways to deal with it. Things like your high-speed counter and analogs, they won't work. Okay, I'll show you the reasons why. Because you do not have the hardware in the simulator. Okay, and you're going to depend on that hardware in the simulator. Okay, so that's debugging. I'm going to make a nice video for us on debugging later as well. So there's quite a couple of videos in queue for me there. tools, memory card. I just want to show you that it's there. I'm not going to go into that right now. This is going to be dealt in a more advanced level. We're going to break it up into little sections. You can literally go and write your program, put it onto a memory stick, or put it in an envelope, post it to somebody by courier. They stick the memory stick into the PLC on the other side, or the memory card, and you literally upload the program into that PLC. Okay, so we'll break it down into more detail around how to handle data in your memory card. Again, tool to check my program, check my parameters, and check the assigned devices of global labels, confirm memory size offline. This all got to do with memory handling and what's written where and what's where in the PLC. Okay. Again, I'm gonna deal with this in a different video around the memory card. So, logging configuration tool. There's a video waiting for us to happen. What was my mistake there? So, unable to start the CPU module logging configuration tool. The following are the possible causes. The CPU logging configuration tool has not been installed. Okay. So, GXWorks tell you what's going on, and it wants you to do certain things. It talks about versions, what you need to be aware of. Real-time monitoring function. I don't think this one is going to work on my my computer. Maybe I'm lucky. Let's see. Hopefully I'm not going to crash anything now. Let's see if it wants to start up. GX Log Viewer. Very nice little tool that you're going to use to do live debugging on your plant. You can literally just start it up, connect to your PLC, assign a couple of IOs that you would like to monitor, and you just start it, and it records at a phenomenal speed. Okay, there we go. Seems like we're gonna have fun with it. So first of all, it tells me that there's some network connectivity issue that it needs to deal with, but that's very straightforward. I just have to go and tell it exactly where we're connecting to, or it's going to figure it out by itself. There we go. It has found the PLC based on the network connection that I've made earlier. Okay. As simple as making an X0 or a D100 or a M1, and you're ready to monitor. Okay, or you can even go and monitor SD 4500, for instance. Absolutely any variable that you would like to monitor, or a SM 8000, which we're probably not going to see in much of. Maybe 8003 might be a nice one to look at. And monitoring start. And we can zoom out a little bit, see what happens there. So if I stop my monitoring now and maybe make that SM 2005, let's see what happened here. Yeah, so as simple as that, and you can do some very interesting monitoring on your program. And it breaks it down into literally milliseconds. So you can, on a millisecond level, go and do diagnostics to see what happens in your PLC. Okay, so that's that. This is going to have a nice video all by itself. There's quite a substantial amount of tools inside the log viewer. Okay, feel free to open it and go and play with it, push the buttons, and if you find issues, you're welcome to let me know. But I expect you to just go through the documentation to read up a little bit on the tools. It does help you, believe me. Yeah, that is under tools. Then we have a couple of more tools in here. I'm not going to go into detail that because I'm a bit way over time here. They're quite self-explained, but I think the most important ones I've handled. And we will find more and more videos coming out. Typically, like I'm going to talk about the complete configuration of the parameter settings in GXWorks, and how you can make things easier and work simple for you, and how you can port your profiles, how you can export your settings, keep your settings on the side, back it up, send it to someone else so that you and your partner can have exactly the same configuration and parameters. Okay. So I think that basically covered that. And then your standard Windows environment. I'm not going to explain much about that. And then obviously our GXWorks e-manual, or the Mitsubishi e-manual viewer. So for instance, if I put a function down here, and I don't understand what the function is all about, maybe some clever little function. What can I think of? Some logic operation. Let's just put something down for the sake of it. I got no idea what that is. Okay? It's just saying an XOR what? Or a data shift. There's some interesting function right there. Okay? Take note of the help button, top right, on every single function. Okay? If you don't understand what goes on in there, click on that button and your e-manual viewer will open on that document. I'm going to see if mine is going to load. Yep, it's busy loading. I haven't opened it earlier. It's going to open a new instance of the e-manual viewer. Is there any specific questions so far? Okay, there we go. Take note, whenever you open an e-manual viewer, you will find that it wants to update. Okay, go and do updates. Mitsubishi literally work on these documents 24/7. Every day there's new documents available. Okay, I'm not going to update mine now. I've done mine yesterday. And there we go. There's our break or break pulse function. Your operation and description, applicable devices that it can work with, and a detailed description on how it works with a bit of example code, and so you can go on. Okay, for every single thing there's your call P, and it also tells you for which PLC is it available. Okay, so we do have the FX5U, FX5UJ, and the FX5UC, the very, very compact PLC. That's if you have a panel where you do not have much space in the panel, and also you don't want to make use of screws in your terminals. It's maybe a good idea to consider the FX5UC. Especially if you have places where there's a lot of vibration and you're afraid that you might have loose connections in connectivity on your terminals. Then you just make use of the high density or the push in terminal block. Okay. So those functions are then available for that. Lots of examples. Okay. Just one handy dandy little trick that I want to show you before I'm going to call it quits for today. When you see an example and you see this noted at the bottom of the example, take note there. Okay, you can literally just go and click on that. The program was copied. Paste the program to your engineering tool. Do you want to check how it's done? Then you just click yes, I would like to know how it's done. Okay, and it's going to give you a nice detailed explanation on how do you deal with that. Very simple, easy to use. You can go and check it out for yourself. I'm just going to show you quickly in our navigator. We're going to go to our ladder program that we've created earlier. I literally just right click and paste. Thank you. That's how difficult that was. No. And you can run your program example directly out the help file. Okay. I think that's pretty neat if you consider how much effort Mitsubishi did put into the detailed documentation that they got on every single aspect. It doesn't matter, and I've been blown away so many times with this. So, you guys got any questions for me? Let's have a look here. What do we have for questions? Anybody got a question for me? I can see there's about 25 people still online there. If you guys got any questions, you're welcome to ask. And if you have any more questions, you're most welcome to give us send us an email in support, and we can get to you. You can also add more comments in the YouTube channel. You're most welcome, and we will get back to you on your question. And thank you very much for attending the session. Sorry that it was a bit long and maybe a bit dragged out. Oh, there's somebody. You're welcome, Micha. Again, if you got any question, you're most welcome to send us more detail. You can also go to our website. And go and find more detail on some examples and things that we've added into our knowledge base. You just have to go to technical support. There's our Android support forum and our Mitsubishi support forum. And you will definitely find some very interesting topics to deal with, specifically Works3, FR configurator. Go and read up, go and check it out for us. I think you'll enjoy it. Also give us some feedback on these sites. You're most welcome to update us. Maybe we missed something somewhere, and we'd like to hear some more feedback. And yeah, thank you very much for viewing. for watching our channel. There will be more videos like this coming out soon. Click the subscribe button and like the channel, and give us more information and feedback. And thank you again for watching. Much appreciated for the guys that signed up. And you're also most welcome to view the content a bit later as well on